Welcome to People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. I'm Mark Pfeffer. Today I'm speaking with isolved's Chief Product Officer, Pragya Malhotra. She's been busy this year as isolved has moved to integrate more AI technology into its product set. We're going to talk about balancing AI's hype and AI's reality, the impact on HR, and just how long can this AI buzz keep going? That and more on this edition of People Tech. Hey Pragya, welcome back. I wanted to talk today about AI. The growth, in the last less than a year has been fast and furious, and it feels like every software provider out there is offering some kind of tool based on Chat GPT. And I'm wondering, how many of these products do you think are real? I mean, can solutions really be developed this quickly?
Yeah, ChatGPT, since its launch, has become it's taken the world by storm, if you will, and rightfully so. I think the advances in computer processing power, data storage over the last few years have been very sophisticated, and that has allowed AI algorithms to be developed and flourished with some of the new organizations, such as the one behind ChatGPT. But what's more interesting is that now, with the launch of large language models in ChatGPT, particularly, or Microsoft bots or Google, everyone is doing something. But with that, what's interesting is that AI has become available to everyone. The use of AI, building those models, leveraging insights out of models, it has now become available to everyone. Now, of course, we need to continually train these models, get the feedback, and with that feedback, the models will continue to improve. But what's really interesting is that this technology that was available not to everyone, like maybe in the small businesses, medium-sized businesses, this technology was not widely available. Now it is widely available, which I think is what's super differentiated now in the last few months. But also what's interesting, while all of that is going on, that if the models or if these tools do not produce something that's like it's factually incorrect or anything, then and if it comes out, the company's stock plummets right after, right? For instance, when Google demonstrated Bard, one of the responses it contained a factual error, and the stock plummeted right after. But in my view, the fact that it's now become so pervasive, that's the power. And all of us, all technology vendors are gearing up to harness that power.
Now, you see a lot of stories today about, how AI is going to do this and it's going to do that. And how much of a difference do you think AI has made already to HR departments?
Yeah, it's very interesting. In fact, right before our time today, I was speaking with isolved CHRO to just get her perspective, regardless of the technology of, from the HCM product. How does she use AI technologies in her ecosystem? And there are a lot of uses. So, for instance, earlier benefits professionals, payroll professionals, they were generating a lot of comms, performance management comms, compensation comms. They now have an assistant sitting right next to them who can help them write comms. They can tweak them. So it has become super efficient for them to run their departments. But now, as we start thinking about what is available at the level of the products themselves, so many vendors, including isolve, we are looking at how can we speed up job description authoring process. It took an average recruiter an hour to write a good job description that would attract candidates. Now they can write that in a third of the time using some of these large language models. And that's just an example, and that's just scratching the surface. Also, if you think about it, 42% of what an HR admin spends their day-to-day on is just answering those repetitive questions, and having a bot answer those questions is super powerful. And not just, like, so for instance, they can answer questions from the employee handbook as an example, or what are my tuition reimbursement benefits, what is the travel policy. These questions are repetitive, but employees do ask them over and over again. So if you train a bot with a company's employee handbook, you now have a bot that can sit there, look at the handbook, and respond to the employees or to the end users without having manual intervention. So that those things are very powerful. But of course, the potential is huge. There's every organization is doing a lot when it comes to figuring out what this means for us. So for instance, in the LMS space, there is so much content, there is so much learning modules that are available out there. Some of them are long, lengthy documents. With the help of new enhancements in LMS product, for instance, you could build a presentation, take a document, generate a presentation out of this, right? Understand the language of the model, quickly generate a presentation. Now that presentation is 5 to 10 slides. It's easy to understand, a quick bite for someone to understand and absorb. So that's the power, right? We have so much content that has become available, and now with immense processing power, AI, that content becomes so much easier to understand, do something with it. And that power is just being unleashed. So we have a long road ahead of us.
Let me ask you two follow-ups. First one being, do you think those dynamics are going to change? And put another way, is AI going to branch out into more facets of HR and give practitioners new tools in different areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it can. Today payroll as an example, payroll is, we aspire for zero error payroll. We aspire for, not having payroll Thursday stress as an example. So to be able to take an AI-based model and generate payroll with zero error, precision, effectiveness, efficiency is something that I don't believe has been scratched just yet. But that power, unleashing that power, would be incredible. So there will be new ways of doing work, and HR, in allowing HR to do that, honestly frees their time so they can focus on creating that better employee experience. They can focus on creating that personalized learning, development, coaching, mentoring that HR is excellent at. So there are a lot of opportunities which are becoming available, and companies and organization, all us as vendors, we are exploring what that means.
Greetings from Evergreen Podcasts. We're rolling out a listener survey, and we want to hear from you. The information in the survey will help us gather statistics and in turn make our shows more appealing to advertisers. I know most people don't like ads, but this is one of the only ways our shows make money and help keep their lights on. We promise it will only take a few minutes, but the impact on our podcasts will be tremendous. As a token of our appreciation, we'll randomly select one lucky participant each month to win an exclusive merchandise package from Evergreen Podcasts. Head to evergreenpodcast.com/listener-survey to help a show and possibly get some free stuff for doing so. We can't thank you enough for the support. Now back to the show.
Now, you were talking before about how these AI tools can change the practitioner's work so that they spend less time on repetitive tasks and more time, on higher value tasks. And you hear that a lot from people involved in the business and software. And I always wonder, do things really work out that way? Or are practitioners going to be laid off as opposed to redeployed? How do you think companies are going to adjust their workforce plans as the tools change?
Right. And I'm going to maybe offer my perspective, which is an extension of your question, not only HR practitioners, but practitioners in general. I think how I view this as, back in the day, we in the US, for instance, we had manufacturing jobs. Then, and moved, then manufacturing jobs kind of relocated a little bit. We moved on to the next category of job and the next category and the next category. So in my view, it is the evolution of technology. So the jobs are going to be more different. Doesn't mean that this will be the same jobs. The jobs will be more different, more strategic. So as an example, and I'll answer this from more of a tech perspective than a pure HR, which we'll get to in a minute. Now with tools, with large language models, for instance, Microsoft has developed assistants. So with GitHub coding assistants, that you can give it some regular code and it'll generate like your program for you, as an example. So that makes your job efficient. Doesn't take away, right? A software developer is still developing the code, but their job has become so much more efficient. So when they were doing, say, X amount of work in a day, now they can potentially do, I don't know, X point, 1.5 times or 2 times. And it's still evolving, but that's just an example. So similarly, in other jobs, there will be different types of jobs. Not all, the jobs will become more efficient. As I was saying earlier, from an HR perspective, it took an HR recruiter an hour to write a job description. Now they can do that in 20 minutes. So they're still doing that job. They're doing that job much more efficiently. So they can go focus. So you can expand the HR department and have them focus on other things, which they were so strapped earlier that they could not focus on.
I'm curious, how do HR professionals feel about all this? I mean, are they thinking first and foremost about the technology? Here's a new thing, or are they first looking at what they can do with it?
Yeah, you're absolutely. I think it's the latter. They do not think of, in my view, they do not think of technology just as technology and not employing technology just because it is available. They want to solve a business problem, right? So understanding what that business problem is super important, and also providing them the tools so they look to these products or these services or these tools as kind of like helping me in my job rather than taking over my job or being in the way type of thing. So as I mentioned earlier, in my view, the job doesn't go away, but it becomes augmented, right? So that's how, in my view, HR professionals will be looking at it. But that being said, though, HR professionals always have data privacy issues, security issues, compliance issues top of mind. So whatever technology is developed has to be developed from the mindset of, is this secure? Does this help with compliance? Because that's still bread and butter. So we cannot take that away. And all the tools need to have at the forefront, how do we make it secure? How do we make data privacy issues top of mind? So the development needs to take that into account.
Do you think HR, practitioners especially, but do you think HR is being included in the corporate discussions about these different solutions and which ones should be implemented, and just kind of the general planning and strategies?
I very much think they are. In many organizations, compliance and employees, what employees can access, what employees cannot access, even though it starts at the CIO level, the implementation of that at the employee level, HR comes along and helps in that implementation. So it is important for the CIO or the CISO to work hand in hand with HR and make sure that they are in agreement with the policies. Two, they are being supporters of that policy, and then there is a partnership going on there.
We were talking before about how quickly this has all gathered steam, and so I think it's fair to say that AI development's in the middle of a hot streak. Do you think this pace is going to continue, or do you think it's going to slow down to a more traditional pace of development and new products and all that?
In my view, the pace is going to continue. You know how they say that the amount of, I don't have the exact statistics, but the amount of data that was created in the first 20 years of the internet now gets created in these many months or days or weeks, right? So I think it's the same pace of innovation that now that it has kicked off, it is I know for me personally and my teams, we spend so much time thinking about how can we make the job of our HR practitioners, professionals, how can we augment their day to day using these tools, and that's just going to continue. So I do not think it's gonna kind of lose its steam. It is going to become more secure. It is going to become more resilient. But with time, now that this technology has been unleashed, there will be it'll have far-reaching outcomes. I mentioned earlier, but I think what's so powerful is that, like, as in an SMB or in a medium-sized businesses, for instance, they did not have ability to maybe hire like a data scientist or a data engineer, or some of those very sophisticated jobs. But now with the advent of these tools available at a small fee, they have these tools and technologies available to them, which is powerful.
So where do you think it's all going? I mean, when you think about the world 10 or 15 years from now, where do you think AI is going to be, or, how tightly is it going to be integrated, or, how do you see it all playing out?
I wish I had a magic 8 ball right here with me. I think, like in the last few years, a lot has changed after COVID, especially. And I know that's probably like what everyone talks about, but employee experience, we talk a lot about employee experience, and sometimes we're like, is that even overrated, us talking about employee experience? But since after coming out or off from COVID, the nature of jobs in so many industries has changed. We still have hourly workers, we still have white collar, blue collar, gray collar workers, but we now live in this hybrid world, and hyper awareness with all these apps and having to get these apps to work together. The dynamics have shifted a lot. So in the next 5, 10, 15 years, it's going to become, the interconnectivity between all these technologies is going to be paramount, right? And maybe, even for the last 5 years, we've said interconnectivity is paramount, but still, because, employees were in the office, they were always working, or employees were, so there was the work-life fluidity, the balance has morphed so much that now all the apps, everything needs to be connected. So I was just having a conversation earlier today. Twitter for many people used to be, for some people, I'd say, used to be like their business account, and Instagram was their personal account. Now Instagram has threads, or Facebook has threads. That's your personal account. That fluidity is kind of shifting. Your identity is your identity, your social identity, your personal identity. All of that is kind of coming together. So that interactivity, that integration between the apps, between your work life, personal life, that boundary has become so blurry now, that the apps, the AI has to morph and keep pace with that. That's where, in my view, that integration between our worlds will continue to become more and more blurry, and apps or applications will work around it.
Pragya, thank you so much. It's always great to talk to you, and it was, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me. Always exciting to speak with you as well.
My guest today has been Pragya Malhotra, the Chief Product Officer at isolved. And this has been People Tech, the podcast of the HCM Technology Report. We're a publication of Recruiting Daily. We're also a part of Evergreen Podcasts. To see all of their programs, visit www.evergreenpodcast.com. And to keep up with HR technology, visit the HCM Technology Report every day. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.hcmtechnologyreport.com. I'm Mark Pfeffer.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show.
Dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts. We out.
Welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate, the podcast that asks you what you want to be when you grow up so you can graduate into retirement with a purpose and a passion, whether you're 25, 85, or any age in between. Gain actionable financial and mindset tips from your favorite authors, podcasters, and influencers to help you reach that exciting next chapter. Listen now and start building your path to financial freedom and reframing what retirement can mean to you. This is your host, Eric Brotman, reminding you, don't retire, graduate.